And welcome back to Open Studio. I'm Steve Leahy. How are you guys doing? All right, you guys know that I really love painting on these ampersand panels. This is clayboard. It's kind of my go-to hard panel. I do this, a little bit of aluminum, some UPO paper, that kind of thing. But this finds its place quite a bit in a lot of the bigger paintings. The problem I have with it is not the problem with the board so much as the problem I have with the way that I work. I am really kind of hands-on, which means when I'm working with a paintbrush, my finger is actually making contact with the painting, which is why I wear these ratty gloves. These little cotton gloves kind of keeps the oil off the painting while I'm working. One thing I find though is especially on the edges, this glove or just my finger or any contact can really wear out the very edge of these paintings as I'm kind of working on them. Anything is abrasive and the paint is usually thinnest right along the edge. So the first thing I'll usually do with a painting is the background. And then as I'm doing the rest of it, what I find is inevitably at the end of the painting, I have to fix the edges from just wear and tear and handling and that kind of thing. What I wanted to do was find a way to protect that background. And one of the ways that I found to do that was with the UVLS satin, or any of the UVLSs really. So this is the UVLS clear from Createx. And the UVLS clears are an acrylic aliphatic polyurethane. They have UV stabilizers in them, which helps to protect the color that you put down. And they're great. They come in satin gloss and matte, as well as a new high gloss. And I've talked about these a lot. I've done a Tech Tuesday on these as well. So I really love these. If you look at this painting at the end of it has the UVLS satin on it. And it gives it just such a great overall finish. And it protects this beautiful red color from fading, even though the paint also has a lot of staying power. But it's just one more layer to keep that painting looking good forever. So my initial thought was to just spray the background when I finish the background. For instance, when I did all this red in the background here, to spray with satin or gloss or clear. I think I used gloss. So then that led me to something on the shelf that I've had and never thought of. You know, I've used these Autoborne sealers a lot, especially the white and the gray. I use this stuff all the time. So this painting here started, the very first coat was sealer white, or there were actually 4 coats of sealer white on this first. And then I sand it and it's all nice and smooth and perfect and it's ready to go. This stuff aggressively sticks. It's great. It really seals up the surface really nice, gives me a sandable surface that I can get the painting really flawless from the start, which is nice. And I've done Tech Tuesdays on this as well. This is my, kind of leveling the playing field. I can spray this on just about everything. You've seen the UPO paper that I use. This actually has Autoborne Sealer Gray on it. This is a scrap piece from a larger sheet. And it's great. You can't do anything to it. It is on there. So you can really abuse this stuff. It's great. And if you do put like micro scratches in it, you just sand it out and it's ready to go. So anyway, I use this stuff a lot. And I'm like, well, you know what? I have this stuff that I got and I've never used it. So they make Autoborne Sealer Transparent, or Transparent Autoborne Sealer. This stuff is the same as the Autoborne Sealer, except without the pigment in it. This stuff has the highest ability to stick because it has nothing else in it. It's just those incredible Autoborne Sealer binders. So the Autoborne Sealers are an acrylic resin, essentially acrylic resin base coat. And because this stuff has nothing in it, it's perfectly clear. So what I decided to do was try the transparent sealer instead of the UVLS because of its aggressiveness, because of its strength. It's just one step up from UVLS, and it's really the job that it needs to do is protect those edges. So let's take a look at this stuff. So what I have here, this is a piece of UPO paper, and I have Autoborne Sealer Gray on this, just like the sheet above. And what I did was I took some opaque black and I just painted a fade on this. So this is just paint and Autoborne Sealer. The paint itself is very, very strong by itself. You can see I'm scratching this, and this is a really light layer here. So really, other than just a sheen change, that stuff really holds on very well. But again, it's along the edges that I have the problem, because that paint is so thin on the edge, and as I'm kind of messing around with it or putting my fingers on it, that really takes a beating. So what I did was I sprayed the Autoborne Sealer on this. So this has the Autoborne Sealer. The reason why I have this fade on here is I really wanted to see how clear it was, how clean it was, because that's a huge thing. If the Autoborne Sealer puts a kind of like a milky haze over it, I can't use it. It'd have to be crystal clear for the painting. And as you can see, it is. In fact, it does what the UVLS does. If I hold these two together, you see how matte gray this is, where how rich and dark that is. There's a little bit less paint on this, but it still illustrates the point. That really brings out the color just like the satin does, or the gloss does. So now this thing here is really bulletproof. So again, there's some surface scratches there, but if that had happened to a painting, I could just take some really high grit sandpaper. This is 1500, and just really lightly go over this until those scuffs are gone. And I can even hit it with the Scotch-Brite just like I do afterwards. So now I have this really smooth surface again. And then what I decided to do was to see what it looked like once I cleared it. Now this is UVLS high gloss, and you can see how glossy that is. So I just wanted to see what the finish would be. Now the advantage to using the sealer is, again, you can sand it. So say I finished a painting and I needed to level something, meaning there was a paint part of it that was a little bit higher because I built it up with a paintbrush, for instance, a detail that was just kind of sticking up. It doesn't take much for you to see that when you turn it at an angle like this. You'll see those paintbrush lines, which is fine. But I really like to usually have it very, very smooth and kind of even across the surface. By spraying that base coat sealer, that Autoborne sealer first, and then applying the finish, whatever the UVLS finish would be, I have the best of both worlds. I can actually sand the last coat of Autoborne Sealer transparent to get it super smooth, and that's what I did here. And then I can apply just a couple coats of whatever UVLS clear that I want. The UVLS will now introduce that UV protection, and it'll also give me the gloss or the shine or the matte or satin that I'm looking for. So, and again, it is brutally strong. Like, you know, I mean, all right, so here we'll do this. So this is everything. So if I actively fold this all the way down to a crease, it doesn't come, I mean, it holds on. Now normally, you know, with any kind of clear, that would crack and make a mess. This stuff is brutal. It's awesome. It's really, really good. So that kind of shifted what I was doing, and it solved a problem for me. Again, the problem was the edge of these things getting damaged while I'm working, and now I have a solution for that. I can apply this Autoborne Transparent Sealer over the background, or at any stage really, and now I have a protective coating, an intercoat essentially, that will protect it against everything. Okay, one important side note here. If you're using the Candy 2O line, so just as a point of safety, I would still use the bleed checker between coats instead of the using, say, the Autoborne Sealer. I'm not sure that the Autoborne Sealer will not work for bleeding of candies, but this bleed checker is made specifically for that. So what you could do is, I mean, you could use the bleed checker, but you could also, again, seal it with the transparent sealer and then put a layer of bleed checker on that, and then that would ensure that the candies don't bleed through layers. So that's just a side note for that. All right, so this is really the early stages. I am super confident that this is all gonna kind of do what it's supposed to do for me as far as protecting these paintings, but I will keep you guys up on how it works as I actively use it. That's really the test. So the next painting, I'm gonna use the Autoborne Sealer as that intercoat, and I will keep you guys up on how all that works. But I'm really confident. This stuff is amazing out of the gate, and I know it's gonna work great. So for Steve Leahy and Tech Tuesday, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Click that bell icon for future videos. And if you want to support what we do here, you can become a Patreon member like these lovely people. And you could also become a member here on the channel, which will give you special perks as well. So I will catch you guys all on the next one. Thanks a lot.